host?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So as I mentioned, Sarah Choi, who served as vice chair for the last year or so, I believe, will be, since our previous chair is no longer on the committee, Sarah Choi will be serving as chair for the part of the meeting until we get to chair vice chair election, agenda item 5-1. So Sarah, you have the virtual gavel.
Okay, let's start with attendance.
Awesome.
A roll call.
Yes. Okay, when I call your name, please say present here. Committee member Breeding.
Present here.
Committee member Chen.
Present.
Committee member Merchant.
Present.
Committee member Peterson.
Present.
Committee member Woolley.
Present.
Vice Chair Choi.
Present.
Great. So now we'll move on to approval of the minutes. I know that 3 of the current members were not present at the last meeting, but I guess we'll see if there's discussion about adjustments to the minutes and we'll go from there. You may still vote on this item.
I have no comments. It's fine with me. I was there.
Okay. I do see that we have a member of the public with their hand raised.
Jeremiah, go ahead.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Bond. Good evening. This is Jeremiah. How's everybody doing? Good, good. Thank you. So just to confirm, this is the second meeting of the year, correct?
First meeting of the year.
First meeting of the year. All right. Well, congratulations, everybody. Looks like we're going to pick a chair and vice chair. I'd like a public comment to be able to do that, to nominate somebody from the public. Regarding the minutes, I was simply going to ask what time the last meeting ended. If anybody knows what time the last meeting ended. That was going to be my only question regarding the minutes. Other than that, I approve the last minutes. I just want to know what time the meeting ended last time, please. Thank you.
I can quickly answer Jeremiah's question. The December 16th meeting concluded at 9:54 p.m.
Okay, I don't see any additional public speakers.
Thank you, Jeff. If there are no other comments on the minutes, we'll go through a roll call vote. Oh, I do see someone just raised their hand.
Lucinda, you may go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I'm not sure if this is the appropriate. I did have just a concern about that I wanted to express about the recently passed Measure DD. And is this an appropriate time to raise that, or should that be done at some later point in the meeting?
We're currently discussing the minutes from the previous meeting. I think your comment would be better for the next agenda item, which is public comment.
Thank you. I just came in. So, all right. I heard public comment. So thank you.
Thank you, Lucinda. Okay. So typically to pass anything, the minutes being one of those things, we'll need a committee member to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Yeah, I'll move to approve the minutes.
Great. And then we'll need someone to second that motion.
I second it.
Great. And now I will go through a roll call vote. Committee member Breeding.
Aye.
Committee Member Chen,
Aye.
Committee Member Merchant,
Aye.
Committee Member Peterson,
Aye.
Committee Member Woolley,
Aye.
Vice Chair Choi.
Aye.
Great. Minutes approved. Great. Next, we'll move on to the public comment period. And as a reminder for committee members and attendees, this is an opportunity for members of the public to speak on anything that is not already listed on the agenda.
So Lucinda, I think this would be the opportunity to make your comments. I will allow you to talk. Please go ahead.
Lucinda, you may be muted.
How's that?
There you go.
So I'm Lucinda Young. I'm a Albany resident and a member of the Albany Climate Action Coalition. First of all, I just want to thank all of you, all members, especially the new members, for their work on this very important committee. I just wanted to mention briefly, I volunteered for Measure DD, and one of the concerns I heard repeatedly mentioned as I spoke with Albany voters about this measure was the concern that the question, how exactly are these funds going to be spent, Measure DD funds going to be spent? And since the direction that 1/3 of the revenue raised from this measure is merely a recommendation to use for climate action, how are we as voters going to know that these funds have been used for this purpose? So I wanted to just raise that, and then I think it's important to for there to be some type of tracking or accounting of the use of these funds for the voters. I think that the Albany voters do want to know what their taxes are spent on. And so I would just throw that out, that I'm not sure exactly how that would be done, but I do think it's important for this committee to think about and address, along with the recommendations for addressing climate action measures. Thank you.
Okay. Jeremiah, you may go ahead, please.
Hey, thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. Well, good evening once again. Just want to inform everybody regarding the Port of Oakland. We did get some cranes in. It's been sitting on our dock for the past couple weeks. I don't know if you looked on the news, but I think we got about 5 cranes, and they're the largest cranes that Oakland's ever installed. Pretty sure they came from China. They're like $30 million total, about $5 million each, but they're all electric. Just want to update you guys about the Port of Oakland. All the cranes operate on what's called shore power. And so all the cranes are electric. Even though a lot of the equipment we use in the yard, it's all diesel, and it's really terrible. But the cranes are good. Maybe Albany can push for some sort of air quality control. I have some contacts with the California Air Quality Control. I have a couple people's business cards. So what we can do in Albany is, I know we have a couple used car dealerships, and the Ford and the Subaru, yeah, the Ford. Right across the street from Happy Donuts, I think there's a used car lot. If we can push for, no sale of diesel vehicles, I mean, diesel is probably worse for the environment than just gasoline. And, you know, I think we have a goal in California. I think it's 2030. The governor wants to stop selling gasoline cars, and you can only sell electric or hybrid or something. But maybe we could push for Albany to where maybe by 2028 or 2025, maybe that Subaru dealership or any other car dealership in Albany, we could push ahead of time to where they could stop selling gasoline powered vehicles, push toward electric. Maybe we can incorporate for the city to where the city vehicles, Mr. Bond, if city staff, if you could get a hold of Public Works, if the city of Albany wants to buy any new vehicles, you know, please make sure they're electric or energy efficient, because I know a lot of vehicles in Albany, Public Works, you know, they're big trucks. Maybe we could push for the police department to drive, you know, new Teslas or something, the SUV or something more energy efficient. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jeremiah. I don't see any more comments on this agenda item.
Great. We'll move on to announcements. Give me 1 sec to share my screen. Oh, I'm giving a sneak preview. Great. So as a reminder for everyone, during this section of the agenda, it's an opportunity for staff or sometimes some of the committee to give announcements on action, announcements regarding action previously taken by the committee. For example, we'll give an update on where our green building measures are, which is an action that the committee previously took. But typically in announcements, there is no further action for the committee to take on these items. And actually, because it's not agendized as a discussion, we are not allowed to discuss these items. You may ask questions and the public may make comments, but it's not a discussion item section. Just a reminder. So during the announcements today, we'll be discussing upcoming sustainability events and resources in the region, an update on green building measures, and an update about East Bay community energy. To kick it off with sustainability events and resources, I've been reminding the committee previously to check out the new Stop Waste Resource Guide. It's available on our website at albanyca.org/recycle. You can also find it at stopwaste.org. Stop Waste is the Alameda County Waste Management Authority, which is a public agency tasked with waste reduction. They also work a little bit a lot in the climate space. So I recommend checking out their website in general for some awesome resources. This resource guide in particular is a great tool for the Albany community because you can type in any item you're not sure how to dispose of or what the next best use is for it. And it will tell you options to donate the item, options to repair the item, and then if those two prioritized options are not available for the item that you have, it'll tell you where to safely dispose or recycle it. Also, a resource available from Stop Waste that I encourage everyone to check out, but make sure you've eaten dinner before you do so, is stopfoodwaste.org. It's a great website for telling Alameda County, or anyone who visits the website, residents how to limit food waste, save money, curb methane emissions from the landfill, and just use food in the best way possible to make sure we're not wasting it. But as I mentioned, their graphics are top notch, so make sure you've eaten before you go to this website. Next is Drive Clean Bay Area, which is a group purchasing collaborative led by a nonprofit that many cities have sponsored or promote. Information about it is available at drivecleanbayarea.org, but they're currently organizing a group buy opportunity to get discounts on electric vehicles for residents in the Bay Area who are interested in starting to drive electric. there's also a lot of webinars recorded on their website you can check out if you're interested in learning more. Lastly, Committee Member Peterson recommended everyone check out the climatecenter.org, which has a series of webinars coming out over the next month and a half, one being next week. And this is another nonprofit that works in the space of climate action. They have ambitious climate goals for California. And as I mentioned, the webinars available give more insight into what the campaign is currently trying to achieve. And Committee Member Peterson has invited someone from the Climate Center to come speak to us next month. So keep an eye out for that on the agenda. All right. Next, we'll move on to a green building update, and I will pass the mic to Michelle.
Thanks, Lizzie. So yes, I'm going to update you guys on the green building resolution that was just adopted by council last night, which is very exciting. So just to tell you a little bit about what this resolution is, kind of two pieces. First, there's an electric preferred reach code, which essentially incentivizes new construction to be all electric rather than natural gas and electricity. That way it can take advantage of our incredibly clean electricity we have here in Albany. So it applies to new construction of single and multifamily homes, as well as office buildings and retail. And the electric buildings, there's a kind of slightly higher level of efficiency required than the kind of mandatory state level. And then for mixed fuel buildings, it's a much higher standard. It's the highest we can possibly require. So that's trying to push people towards those electric buildings. And then it also requires solar panels on new non-residential buildings as well. Next slide, Lizzie. Thanks. And then these are the other half of the resolution, which is a whole slew of different measures covering a whole range of items. So things like permeable paving, water efficiency, low carbon concrete, low VOC flooring, and also EV charging for multifamily space, for multifamily buildings. So a whole package of these measures. Next slide. And this was developed by the Climate Action Committee, specifically by the Green Building Subcommittee, and recommended last year in September. Then it was recommended also by the Planning and Zoning Commission. We took it to City Council for the first time in December, and they actually wanted to add even more EV parking requirements. So we did that and brought it back to them last night, where they adopted it. So that's great news. And now staff is working on sending it to the California Energy Commission for state level approval.
Great, thank you, Michelle. This is very exciting because it's an initiative we've been working on for about a year. Committee Member Peterson, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, could you give a little more detail on the increase in the requirement for multifamily EV charging?
Yes, absolutely. So you might remember, although many people are new here won't remember, that 20% of spaces in new multifamily buildings were required to be EV charging spaces. So that requirement is still there, but the remaining 80% now need to be EV ready spaces, meaning that they have inaccessible raceway for wiring installed during construction. So it's really easy to just put all the wires in there. And then also the electrical capacity in the building as well.
Great. Any other questions on this announcement before we move forward? Seeing none. East Bay Community Energy. This is another topic the committee worked on extensively in 2020, and spoiler alert, it's going to be coming back in 2021, although there's no action to be taken right now. For a little bit of background on East Bay Community Energy, abbreviated as EBCE, it's a community choice aggregation that provides clean electricity at sometimes lower rates to Alameda County residents, including us in the city of Albany. The way CCAs work, if you're new to this structure, is community choice aggregations are public agencies that procure clean power, but PG&E still provides, maintains service lines and handles billing. Albany City Council opted into the EBCE JPA in 2016, I want to say. They indicated that they wanted to join. I apologize that I don't have the exact date, but Albany began receiving power from EBCE in 2018, and directed by the Albany City Council, all electricity accounts in Albany, including residential, commercial, industrial, and our CARE FERA medical baseline customers, all started automatically receiving 100% carbon-free energy that came from solar, wind, and large hydropower at the same rate as PG&E's standard rates. Currently, EBCE offers 3 different types of electricity products. One is the Brilliant 100 product, which is our default, which is the 100% carbon-free, offered at the same rate as PG&E's standards rates. There's the Renewable 100 service, which is 100% California-generated solar and wind power, offered at a slight premium, 1 penny per kilowatt hour more than PG&E's standard rates. And Bright Choice, which is a 1% discount to EBC or to PG&E's standard rates, and it's currently somewhere around 50% carbon-free. Previously around 85% carbon-free. But action taken by the City Council previously, and then also by the CAC and the City Council in late 2020, we are still receiving 100% carbon-free electricity at the same rate as PG&E. Another thing that's important to note about East Bay Community Energy, for those who are new to the learning about the agency, it is a public agency, so instead of having shareholders, excess revenue is invested back into the community in the form of local development programs, such as installing EV chargers or offering technical assistance to member jurisdictions to do projects that enhance energy efficiency or the goal of clean electricity electrification. So without diving too much into the details, because you will have plenty of opportunity to learn about this, East Bay Community Energy did an analysis of their budget in 2020, and it was found that offering Brilliant 100, which again is the 100% carbon-free electricity offered at the same rate as PG&E's standard rates, is a money-losing product for EBCE. So EBCE board and member jurisdictions were asked to reconsider what products, the board was asked to reconsider what products are available, and member jurisdictions based on that were tasked with determining what product they wanted to be their default product for 2021. Again, I'm not going to dive into all the details of this just because it would take us quite a while to work through it. But in the end, the EBCE board voted to extend offering the Brilliant 100 product, even though it's a money-losing product, at the same rate as PG&E. So nothing changed about it. They just know that they will be losing money from it through December 31st, 2021. So Albany residential, commercial, industrial, and CARE FERA medical baseline customers are all staying on 100% carbon-free electricity at the same rate as PG&E through the end of the year. But the committee and the council will have a discussion at some point this year of the options available for next year and the years thereafter. EBCE also briefly considered offering an electricity product that had nuclear content within it, but the board, EBCE staff ended up not bringing this option to the board, so the board did not vote on whether or not they would offer this product in 2021. So it is unlikely that it will be available until potentially 2022, if at all. Then on December 16th, 2020, the EBCE board voted to approve the City of Albany's request to have all accounts on Brilliant 100 product. And as I mentioned, you will be hearing a lot about this in 2021 because it seems highly likely that we will have to have more discussions about our future power mix for 2022 and years thereafter. I just covered a lot, so if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. Nick.
So obviously we can't wait right until the very end of 2021. So again, I really recommend keeping this on the agenda so we monitor it and that we actually discuss a strategy of what our options are so we can advise City Council appropriately. Obviously, my preference would be that we would try to get everybody to up to the 100% sustainable. That actually improves the efforts of the community to make more sustainable energy available. That's where the extra 1 cent is going.
Nick, I'm a little worried we're sparking a conversation versus asking a question.
I just want to keep it on the agenda so we don't push it off the last minute.
Yeah, I can let you know that at the staff level, there have been no updates, but I go to monthly staff meetings with EBCE staff, and I can update the committee based on what I hear at those meetings. But at this point, it doesn't seem that there's going to be any action to take until a couple months from now. Any other questions? Daniel? Sorry, Committee Member Chen?
Yeah, separate from residential, commercial, industrial, and care, FARA, and medical baseline, are there direct access consumers in Albany that make up a significant portion of energy consumed?
That's a great question. I can say I do not know the answer to that question. I don't know how many direct access customers there are, but I could try to find out. Committee Member Peterson, I believe I saw your hand.
Well, I was just going to mention the Target store, I think, is a direct access customer. So
Great. Any other questions? All right. I'll pass the mic back to our chair.
Looks like we have a public comment on this, Lizzie.
Okay.
Jeremiah, please go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Bond. You're such a nice guy. I just wanted to ask one question. The previous lady, I forget her name. I'm so bad with names sometimes. She was talking about the green update for the buildings. She mentioned single family homes, multifamily homes. My question was, does that include new construction on apartment buildings, regarding the 423 Evelyn? I just want to clarify, is that pushing also for newly construction apartments or condos?
If that's your only question, I can just respond real quickly, Jeremiah. It does apply to new construction, such as the project that was approved by the council last night.
So it applies to apartments and condos. Okay, yes. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other public speakers on this item.
Great. Vice Chair Choi, I'll pass the mic back to you.
Okay. Do I need to call a motion to move to the section 5?
No need to motion, but
Okay.
you can announce that we're moving on to agenda item 5-1.
Yeah, so we're going to move on to agenda item 5-1. It's the advisory body overview.
Great. Thank you. I'm going to share my screen again. Great. So, the past couple of Januaries, I have done a quick presentation on advisory body handbook overview and reminders, just because there are plenty of opportunities to read the handbook, and there is, as Ann Sue, our city clerk, mentioned, an opportunity to watch the advisory body training YouTube video that is linked to on our website. I don't know how many people have done that, and I don't know when the first training will be offered, but I just like to get everyone up to speed right at the beginning to make sure we all know what we're doing before, when we start the year. So at any point, if you have questions on any of this, feel free to raise your hand. There will also be an opportunity to ask questions at the end. So the first thing is I'll remind everyone of our committee purpose. The Climate Action Committee is tasked with being a technical advisory committee regarding matters related to climate action and to advise the council on matters related to specifically reducing greenhouse gases and adapting to climate change. The role of advisory bodies, including the role of the CAC, is to advise council on matters within the committee's scope of responsibility. For example, that might be providing technical analysis of certain issues that come before the committee and making recommendations to the council on policy. It's important to remember that the committee itself does not adopt policy. It recommends policy to council that then the council can choose to adopt based on the committee's technical analysis, pro-con analysis, etc. The committee's scope of responsibility is defined in a committee work plan. We will be starting the discussion of a Climate Action Committee work plan in February during our February meeting, and that'll span 2021 through 2023. And work plans must be approved by the City Council. An important thing to remember with that is once the work plan is approved by council, that is the committee's work plan. And if the committee decides to take up any other issues or want to add anything to the work plan, it has to go back to council with an amendment made to it. Attendance policy and quorum requirements. Thank you all for being so on time today. It was awesome. We got to start the meeting right on time. And it is important that members attend all meetings and arrive on time. I always like to share that it's important to remember that you did apply to this position and you were appointed by a council member, and there were many applicants to these positions. And so when committee members are appointed to a body that represents the community and then don't show up, it's kind of a disservice to the community because other members who would otherwise be there representing their voices aren't heard because the seat is filled but vacant. So just important to keep that in mind. Also important to arrive on time because, as I mentioned, if we do not have a quorum of members, we cannot start the meeting. And a quorum is 4 members, which doesn't sound like it's that hard to get 4 members there on time. But we have had a situation before where we only had 3 members online and we were waiting for the 4th one to join so that we could get the meeting going. So it's just great if everyone's on time to every meeting. Excessive absenteeism is grounds for removal from the committee, but we've never had any excessive absenteeism on this committee. So if you do have to arrive late to a meeting or if you aren't able to join, please let me know at least 24 hours in advance, just so that I can keep track of, will we have a quorum? Should we postpone this meeting if we don't, rather than us all getting on Zoom and having to cancel a meeting. Now the Brown Act. You've heard a little bit about this from Ann Sue. You'll hear this, you'll hear the Brown Act mentioned by us probably at every single meeting and often throughout your service on the committee. But the Brown Act serves really to protect the integrity of government, to make sure that there's transparency, that decisions aren't being made behind closed doors, and that the public has opportunity to provide input on policies that will affect their communities. So the big ticket items that you should always remember about the Brown Act: meetings must be properly noticed and open to the public. So it's important that a quorum of members, 4 members, do not meet without being a formal meeting such as this to discuss matters related to the CAC's purview, because members of the public wouldn't be able to provide input on the things being discussed or decided on. Members shall not discuss or make decisions on CAC-related items outside of a public meeting. And as we alluded to earlier too, that includes sending emails and interacting on social media. Members of the committee should not be sharing how they feel about certain things or how they plan to make decisions or gathering consensus from the committee, a quorum of the committee, outside of a noticed open meeting such as what we're having right now. Committee members cannot discuss, deliberate, or decide on matters not listed on the agenda. Special circumstances are exempted, such as, for example, if we were the city council and we were at the last minute hit with a global pandemic, totally hypothetical situation I'm talking about here, we might be able to add something to the agenda at the last minute if it's deemed an emergency that must be discussed. Typically, the CAC does not deal with emergencies, just a heads up. But yes, any items not listed on the agenda, we shouldn't be discussing. If you have an idea about something that should be listed on the agenda, or if another item on the agenda sparks like, oh, this should be an agenda item at a future meeting, save that thought, write it down, and during the agenda item that's titled Future Agenda Items, you can announce what you hope to see on a future agenda. And then, as I mentioned many times, and will continue to mention, a quorum of members may not communicate with each other through any medium outside of a formal public meeting. Meetings. Again, meetings must be conducted in compliance with the Brown Act. Do not discuss, deliberate, or decide on matters before hearing public comment or on items that are not on the agenda. And as a reminder, the proper format for discussing items on the CAC agenda is to receive the presentation or receive the staff report. Then CAC members can ask questions of staff or the presenter or the other committee member who provided the report or presentation. Then we open it up to public comment, have all public comments heard by the committee so that the committee can consider them during their discussion and decision-making process. So it's really important that we follow this format: presentation, questions, public comment, discussion. If I ever interrupt anyone, it's not because I want to interrupt you, it's because I want to preserve this format of the meeting to ensure we're making informed decisions based on public comment. The committee has an established start time of 7:30 p.m. And an established end time of 9:30 p.m. And if you looked closely at the agenda, you'll actually see at the bottom it says the committee shall not consider items after 9:30 p.m. The established end time is important to try to follow, but if we do have to extend the meeting, that can be done so through a motion. So it will be formally recorded on the minutes and formally reported out to the community that we are extending the meeting past 9:30 p.m. The manner for bringing items to the City Council. Typically, the City Council, through the work plan, tasks the committee with looking into certain items, programs, etc. And it's the committee's job to then do the analysis. Once that analysis is done, or if we feel we have or if the committee feels they have a recommendation to bring to council, a motion will be made to recommend something to council, and then staff will coordinate with the city manager to see when that item can be brought to the city council agenda. I kind of combined those two, but they're very similar, those two bullets. But yeah, as I mentioned, staff works with the city manager to coordinate when something goes on the city council agenda. It's not always guaranteed that something will make it onto the next city council agenda. It depends on time and other priorities of the council. And then, as I mentioned previously too, if other committee or the council is to consider, the committee will request an amendment to their work plan so that they can begin working on that issue. The 5 golden rules of an effective advisory body member, I just think they really encompass what we're all here and what we're all trying to do. We're here to represent the whole city, to consider all sides, all voices, and also to really take a close look at what might the unintended consequences of certain things be, and who might our decisions be affecting that we're not considering. So it's very important to be or really dive into analysis of issues. Keep the lines of communication open between committee members and staff, but not committee members outside of a public meeting. But I also think this just means make sure you're being very clear about how you feel about an issue during the meeting. Do your homework and be thorough in making recommendations. Always review memos, staff reports, agenda attachments before we arrive to the meeting so that everyone's making informed decisions and not trying to quickly read a memo while a staff report is being given. Be conscious of the relationship with city council and city staff. Just be respectful on all sides and establish a good working relationship with other members. I think just respect and open communication is very important in all areas of life, but especially here too on the Climate Action Committee. I ran through that really quick. Jeff, if you feel like I didn't cover anything, Jeff's been doing this much longer than I have. Feel free to jump in. And also, if anyone has questions, we can answer them now.
No, thanks, Lizzie, but I think you did a great job. I don't be happy to try to help answer any questions that come up, but no, I don't have anything to add at this point. Thanks.
Any questions? Okay. Now, Sarah, if you'd like, we can open it up to public comment.
Yes. Jeremiah, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Jeff. I think I have a good question. When the council or when your committee may so choose to extend the meeting at 9:30 or later, does that open to public comment, and does the public get to say whether or not, we agree to extend the meeting or to hold over for next time? And also, is there any way that any of these classes or any education regarding this committee, regarding climate action, could be implemented in Albany High School or middle school or grammar school? That way, high school students or middle school students can educate their parents? Or is there anything we can do for our kids in Albany Unified School District so they could learn also? But that may be a difficult question to answer. But basically, yeah, is the public able to comment on whether or not to extend the meeting? Thanks.
Generally, no. That is something that is an administrative matter for the committee to discuss among themselves only. Okay. I don't see any other public comments.
Great. And committee members are welcome to discuss this, but there are no decisions to be made about this. It was just an information action. And if there's no discussion, Sarah, I will pass the mic. Vice Chair Choi, I will pass the mic back to you.
Moving on to item 6-1.
Great. I'm going to share my screen again here. All right, agenda item 6-1 is the election of chair and vice chair. The role of the chair of the committee is to oversee public debate, ensure all public comment is heard, facilitate the meeting and decision making, including kind of keeping track of time to make sure we're not spending too much time on one agenda item and not enough time at the agenda items at the bottom of the agenda. The chair and the vice chair attend agenda prep meetings once a month with staff to determine what items should go on the next month's agenda. And as you're seeing this evening, the vice chair takes the place of the chair in the event of the chair's absence. So just a quick refresher on the roles. Now, how this election will work is we will begin with the chair election, then we will move on to the vice chair election. Nominations for chair and then vice chair, but starting with chair, can be made by any committee member, and nominations do not require a second. So, for example, at the beginning of the meeting when we were approving the minutes, we asked for someone to make a motion to approve the minutes, and then that required a second. Nominations for chair and vice chair do not require a second. You can just say someone's name and then I will record that. Nominations are voted on one by one, with the last person nominated being voted on first. And then as the votes go, once someone nominated receives a majority vote, we conclude voting, because whoever gets the majority vote becomes the chair or vice chair. Before we dive into this process, are there any questions? Don't be shy.
I'd just like to add that a person can nominate themselves if they wish.
Great. I do believe, oh, is there a question, Committee Member Merchant?
Yeah, I was just wondering, once a nomination is made, do the nominees discuss their interest and qualifications for the role, or how does that work?
Jeff, you might know that better than I do.
Yes, I think it's good to, if you're nominating, or if one of you were to nominate someone, to make sure that person wants to serve in that role. And it normally doesn't happen, but I suppose you could get into a more substantive discussion of meeting management philosophy or something like that. But usually some people look forward to chairing a meeting and other people would really prefer not to. So I think it's good to at least confirm that the person who's nominated is interested in taking on the responsibility. It is a bit of a task, and it takes considerably more energy, I think, than just being a member of the committee, because you're both paying attention to the issue and the discussion and managing the meeting at the same time.
Committee Member Peterson?
Yeah, if someone nominates you and you do not want to take the position, you can always say you would prefer not to. So don't feel like if someone nominates you and you go, wait a minute, I don't feel comfortable doing that you have to. I'm correct in that, right, Lizzie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome to say you do not want to be voted on.
The reason I bring that up is this reminds me very much of my early meetings, where all of a sudden you're in a meeting, you're a new time person, and someone nominates you for vice chair. It's like, well, no one talked to me about it. And we can't really have discussions outside the meeting about stuff. So it's really, you say open communication, but this whole thing is very stilted and it's a little confusing in that matter. So I just want to put people's mind at ease. Don't feel uncomfortable with that. It's just the nature of the beast of being on a committee.
Mm-hmm. And before we jump into nominations, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have a member of the public with their hand raised for this item.
Okay.
Hi, it's Jeremiah. Member Merchant, that was going to be my question from the public. Before I was going to get to nominate somebody, I was wondering, what your qualifications were, a little history, maybe high school class or your grade point average overall, or what college you attended, what your major was, kind of thing. But it might be too personal. People might not want to answer, which is okay. And I was also, just real quick, can you answer this live? Is Michelle part of the committee, or is she just an analyst? What's Michelle's role?
So, Jeremiah, we don't normally get into a back and forth with members of the public during public comment. And it's not for members of the public to make nominations to serve as chair or vice chair. It would be the other members of the committee will make the selection. But just for your information, Michelle is part of the Community Development Department. She's a staff member.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay. I was going to nominate her for chair or vice chair, but so just a member of the public. I know I don't really specifically get to nominate, but I was, gonna just further the nomination for chair for Lizzie. You've done a spectacular job. You go to the monthly meetings of the East Bay Energy, and my screen changed, so I can't see the gentleman. I think Peterson. I was gonna nominate Peterson. Your name, I may be messing it up. But I was going to nominate you for vice chair, if that's okay, if you were up for it. And my last question was, before we get into it, how long is the chair's term for? Is it 1 year, or is it for all 2 years? That way before the committee gets to nominate amongst yourselves, you know, it's a 2-year deal. Whether or not, if you want to do it for 1 year, you could back out and someone could be elected. But just to let everybody know, yeah, I think it's a 2-year deal and it's a big responsibility. And I was going to go Lizzie for a chair and the gentleman in the lower left hand corner for vice chair. Thank you.
Okay. Just to, I think Jeremiah did ask a good question, which is how long do you serve if you were to be a chair or vice chair? And it's for 1 year. And so again, next January, there would be the same agenda item will come up and someone else can rotate through, or the same person can keep the job. It just depends on the committee's preference. There's no hard and fast rule.
If we do end up having, if either the chair or vice chair were to leave the committee, then that spot would be vacant and we would go through the election process again. Committee Member Peterson, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I just want to provide Jeremiah with more clarification. Can, members of the public during nomination like this, since it did open to public comment, can they request that a certain person they can't nominate themselves, but could they put forward a request? I think that's what Jeremiah is doing. And I just think it'd be helpful to clarify that.
So a member of the public can comment on anything they want. They can say anything they want. They wouldn't, their statement of I would like to nominate so-and-so in itself does not constitute a nomination. So the committee wouldn't vote on a nomination made by a member of the public. It's the other members of the committee who would, you would be voting on whoever the committee members nominate.
Great. So if we have no further questions, we can start off with chair nominations for the position of chair. And just as a reminder, you can say any name. It does not require a second. Committee Member Peterson? Yeah,
I'd like to nominate Sarah Choi as chair. I think she's done great as vice chair. And, as a student member, she's a valuable asset to our committee. So I think she'd make a great chair.
Committee Member Breeding?
Can I nominate committee member or second the nomination for committee member Choi as president and nominate Peterson as vice?
Yes. I will, I'll mark your nomination for committee member Peterson, but it sounds like I'll make one last call. Are there any nominations for just the position of chair? And then we'll vote on that and then we'll go to give vice chair. Okay. Sarah Choi, are you interested in being nominated?
Yes.
Okay. All right. If there are no other nominations for chair, I will go through a roll call vote. Committee Member Breeding?
Aye.
Committee Member Chen?
Aye.
Committee Member Merchant?
Aye.
Committee Member Peterson?
Aye.
Committee Member Woolley?
Aye.
Vice Chair Choi?
Aye.
Vice Chair Choi now becomes Chair Choi. Congratulations on your promotion to chair. And then just so the rest of the committee knows, Sarah is in a unique position in that she is appointed by the Board of Education. So she will be with us through June 2021. Congratulations, Chair Choi. Now moving on to Vice Chair nominations. I have Committee Member Peterson. And I see Committee Member Woolley, you have your hand up?
Yes, I just had a question. So since Chair Choi is selected by the Department of Education through June, does that mean that we will have another election for chair in June?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, we have a nomination for Committee Member Peterson. Committee Member Peterson, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Committee Member Chen for Vice Chair.
Committee Member Chen, do you accept the nomination?
Yeah.
Great. And Committee Member Peterson, I forgot to ask if you accept the nomination.
Well, I'd like to see if there are other nominations. I actually have been chair and vice chair before, and I think it's a good thing to rotate around. So I think I'll respectfully decline, but thank you very much. And maybe we actually get a real kind of race going here.
So you mean a real race with our one nominee? Okay, so Committee Member Peterson has been declined the nomination. Committee Member Chen is nominated. Any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, I'll go through a roll call vote. Committee Member Breeding?
Aye.
Committee Member Chen?
Aye.
Committee Member Merchant?
Aye.
Committee Member Peterson?
Aye.
Committee Member Woolley?
Aye.
Chair Choi?
Aye.
All right. Our vice chair for 2021 is Committee Member Chen. Congratulations to you both on your elected positions. All right. So that means that Chair Choi, you will remain chair through the remainder of your time at this meeting. Chair Choi let me know in advance she does have to leave a little bit early. So just let us know when you're dropping off, and then Vice Chair Chen, you will assume the role of chair. I can help you while Chair Choi is unavailable. Great. So now we'll move on to 6-2, committee member introductions. We added this to the agenda because we thought, as we all know, with the Brown Act, it is challenging to communicate with one another, not in a public format, but we have 3 new members and 3 remaining members, and it's hard to get to know each other. So we thought it would be a great opportunity to have everyone going down in alphabetical order, and I can call on folks. Give a quick introduction to who you are, what your background is, and why you were interested in being on the Climate Action Committee. Feel free to do whatever you want with your mic time, but we probably should try to make sure each committee member doesn't talk for more than 3-ish minutes, just to make sure we're not here too long. But I will, like I said, I'll go in alphabetical order, starting with committee member Breeding.
Sure. So I'm Kate. I've lived in Albany for 5 years now. I have a 3-year-old and a 10-month-old, and these meetings often coincide with the 3-year-old's bedtime, so you probably will see the 10-month-old with me from time to time. And I was really excited to join the Climate Action Committee because I'm very invested in the green spaces and kind of living a more carbon-free lifestyle, especially like with Albany being such a small city. Like I feel like we are very nimble and able to do a lot, and it's great to participate in that.
Great. Next, we'll move on to Vice Chair Chen.
Hi, everybody. I'm Daniel Chen. I'm a software engineer during the day. I work at a startup that focuses on optimizing the grid and generally wants to help facilitate the transition to a carbon-free future. I'm really excited to be on the Climate Action Committee. I've lived on and off in Albany for about a decade. I moved to Albany and lived in the apartments right after I graduated from college. And then I just moved back here a couple of years ago. So I'm really excited to be participating in the Climate Action Committee, and I look forward to working with both the members of the committee and the public at large to help Albany with the transition to carbon-free future.
Great. Committee Member Merchant.
Hi, I'm Laura Merchant. I moved to California 18 years ago to attend law school at Cal, so I've been in the area for a long time. My family's been in Albany for just 6 years. We moved here when my youngest son was 2 months old, and now I have a first grader and a third grader at Marin Elementary. And we, like during our time here, we've really fallen in love with this town. It feels very neighborly, and it feels like people are really looking out for each other. And I've also noticed that folks here really participate in trying to make our town better. And so I'm really grateful for this opportunity to participate in this committee and finally we've been very navel gazing. I'm very impressed that we have a committee member who has such small children and is participating in this. It's taken me a while to carve out the time for it, but I'm very grateful to be here now.
Great. Committee Member Peterson.
Hi, yeah, I'm Nick Peterson. I've been in Albany since the early 90s. I actually was born in Berkeley and raised in the Bay Area. So I'm a retired architect that worked for 24 years in the UC system, first at Lawrence Berkeley Lab, and then down on the UC Berkeley campus as a project manager doing construction projects and hiring architects, getting things repaired and built. I have a real strong interest in environmentalism going back to when I was a high school student. At that time, the first Earth Day happened, and I thought, geez, we're finally going to do something. And here we are many years later, I won't say how many, and there's still a lot of work to do. I joined when I retired, I wanted to give a bit more back to Albany, and also agree with what Member Merchant said, that Albany as a small city should be able to move nimbly and bring about some good changes and actually work as a model to other small communities. So I think we have an opportunity here to be a leader, and we have been doing that. Although I'll warn you, this now the science is showing we need to really ramp things up. So my real driver was a sense of urgency to try to really get things done.
Thank you. Committee Member Woolley.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Graham, and I am a graduate of UC Berkeley. I studied physics. I graduated about a year ago, and during my time at Cal, I lived at the University Village, which was my first introduction to this cute little town of Albany. And I kind of decided I wanted to stay. And so after I graduated and had to leave, I moved to the Gateview apartments on Pierce Street, still managed to stay in Albany. And COVID and that whole thing kind of threw me for a loop, and the whole job situation was shaky for a while, but I ended up getting a job as a teacher at a charter school in the Fruitvale area of Oakland, and I'm really enjoying the work. I work with very high needs students, and it's a very community-based school. And in the meantime, on the side, I've been dabbling with newly emerging energy storage technologies and seeing what can be done to accelerate the market deployment of those. And since I had a bit of extra time on the side, I got in touch with the city council, who recommended that I join this committee. And so I applied, and I'm glad to be here with all of you. And I'm excited to see how we can allocate the funds that we're going to collect from the newly passed measure and foster further engagement in the community on climate action items like ours.
Thank you. Chair Choi.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a senior in high school, and I've lived in Albany my whole life, and I joined the Climate Action Committee to learn more about what the community was doing to help the environment and hopefully become more involved in it myself.
Great. Thank you all. I don't see any members of the public with their hand raised, but if a member of the public did want to comment, now would be the time. Seeing none, we'll open it up to discussion if there is any. But again, no action to be taken on this item. It was just an opportunity for us to see where everyone was coming from and what passions led them to be on the Climate Action Committee. I will say I'm very excited about this group. I've loved every group of the Climate Action Committee. But I'm very excited to work with you all. Great. Next, we will move on to agenda item 6-3, which is a proclamation of appreciation for Tom Cooper. Let me check if Tom Cooper is still in the audience. Tom, if you're there under an alias, raise your hand. I don't know if Tom is here currently. But for new committee members, typically after a committee member or a staff person has served with the Climate Action Committee, when they are no longer on the committee, for their first meeting after, we do a proclamation of appreciation highlighting all the great things that they worked on during their time as a committee member. We'll start off with committee member Cooper, and I will share the proclamation now. Great. So I will read the proclamation out loud to the group. Proclamation of appreciation to Tom Cooper for his service on the Climate Action Committee. Whereas Tom Cooper began his service to the City of Albany Sustainability Policy as a member of the Clean and Green Task Force in January 2007. And whereas Tom was a founding member of the City of Albany's Sustainability Committee in 2007. And whereas Tom served as chair of the committee for 5 years. And whereas during his term of service, Tom was instrumental in the preparation of both the 2010 Climate Action Plan and the 2019 Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. And whereas Tom prioritized effective community engagement for sustainability initiatives in Albany, including dedicating dozens of hours every year to guiding the Arts and Greens Festival. And whereas Tom was instrumental to the development of green building measures to ensure sustainable building and development and incentivize all-electric new construction. And whereas Tom supported development and launch of East Bay Community Energy, EBCE, including recommendation to opt up all Albany accounts to carbon-free electricity. And whereas Tom is recognized by the committee for his commitment to making the City of Albany a leader in municipal government, environmental policy, and programs. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Climate Action Committee does express its appreciation to Tom Cooper for his service to the City of Albany and wishes him the best in his future endeavors. Before we take a motion to approve that proclamation, we will just open up the floor to members of the public if they would like to make any comments.
We have one person, Jeremiah. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to say congratulations for the proclamation for this gentleman. Done some great things in Albany. So yeah, everybody up there right now, keep up the good work and maybe you'll get a proclamation someday. So just everything you do every day, it sure counts toward climate action.
Thank you.
Great. Seeing no other public comments, we will pull it back to the committee for discussion. And if someone would like to make a motion, Committee Member Peterson.
Well, I can make a motion, but beforehand, I just really want to thank Tom. I'm sorry if he's out there watching this, that'd be nice. But he was really a driving force for this group from the get-go. And I tell you, you spend a lot of time working on these things. Some stuff is successful and others isn't. But Tom was always a very level head, always had a very insightful comment to make about whatever we were considering. And I appreciated his input to this committee. He was a role model to the rest of us on how to really be dedicated to a cause. And I'll wait in case anybody else wants to. Well, I'll make a motion that we pass the proclamation.
I'll second.
Great. We'll go through a roll call vote. Committee Member Breeding.
Aye.
Committee Member Chen.
Aye.
Committee Member Merchant.
Aye.
Committee Member Peterson.
Aye.
Committee Member Woolley.
Aye.
Chair Choi.
Aye.
Great. Motion carries. Committee Member Peterson.
Yeah, so usually the proclamation is handed around and we sign it. How are you guys handling us signing the proclamation? And I don't know how we do that virtually.
Your names are at the bottom in italics, and I think if you were to vote no, I would remove it. But right now, yeah, it's a little bit challenging to do wet signatures on these proclamations. But yes, typically if we did these in person, we'd physically pass around the proclamation. Remember when you could share things with 7 people at a time? And everyone would sign it in the same color pen. But at this time, moving on to agenda item 6-4, I am promoting attendee and former committee member Eric Larson. Eric, can you hear us? There we go.
Hi.
Hi, Eric. All right, let me pull up Proclamation of Appreciation for Eric Larson. Great. Proclamation of Appreciation to Eric Larson for his service on the Climate Action Committee. Whereas Eric Larson began his service on the committee in September 2018, and whereas Eric served as chair from October 2019 to December 2020, and whereas as an experienced climate change communicator and educator, Eric offered insight into effective communication of important topics, and whereas Eric was an influential and dedicated member of the EV Action Plan Subcommittee and helped develop long-term electric vehicle adoption goals for Albany. And whereas, as a member of the CAP 2.0 Subcommittee, Eric identified effective and meaningful actions the City of Albany can take to reach carbon neutrality. And whereas, during his term of service, Eric was instrumental in the development and adoption of the 2019 Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. And whereas, Eric is recognized by the committee for his commitment to making Albany a more environmentally responsible city. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Climate Action Committee does express its appreciation to Eric Larson for his service to the City of Albany and wishes him the best in his future endeavors.
Thank you very much.
Great. I see that we have a member of the public with their hand raised, and then we'll bring it back for any comments or discussion.
This is Jeremiah. I just want to say congratulations, Eric. I do believe I remember you from last year. I know I was probably speaking to you from the Port of Oakland, from work, letting you know what was going down on the docks regarding all the air quality and everything. I just want to say thank you for your service and thank you for your teamwork with this chair, with this board, this committee, and keep up the good work. I know you've accomplished a lot of great things and you're a very talented individual. And please don't stop now, even though you're not on this commission or committee. Just please continue what you do because we need more people like you in this world. So good job.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Not seeing any other members of the public with their hand raised, we'll open it up to any comments. Eric, if you would like to make any comments about your service, or if the committee would like to make any comments or discuss.
I really enjoyed my time on the committee, and it was a great learning experience. It was great to get into the city of Albany and see how it works. And good luck to all of you. I'm really glad that you're on the committee, and really support what you do.
Committee Member Peterson?
Yeah, I really owe a lot to Eric, especially his tenure as chair. I know I can be somewhat excitable and enthusiastic and a little dogmatic about some things, and Eric was always very calming. And I think a lot of times just by using silence was able to keep things in order. So Eric, I appreciate your gentility and just your skills at conducting the meetings and everything. So thank you very much, and I wish you the best.
Thanks.
All right. At this time, if any committee members would like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt the Proclamation of Appreciation.
I'll second.
Now we'll go through a roll call vote. Eric, I won't be calling on you. It's going to be hard, but Committee Member Breeding.
Aye.
Committee Member Chen.
Aye.
Committee Member Merchant.
Aye.
Committee Member Peterson.
Aye.
Committee Member Woolley.
Aye.
Chair Choi.
Aye.
Motion carries. Great. Thank you, Eric.
All right. Thanks a lot. It was great working with you as well, Lizzie and Jeff and Michelle.
Yeah. We'll see you soon. I will be demoting you at this time, so just be aware.
See ya.
Bye. There we go. Great. Our final proclamation is for Max Wei. Do not see Max in the audience. Again, Max, if you're there under an alias, raise your hand. I don't see. All right. Okay. Proclamation of Appreciation to Max Wei for his service on the Climate Action Committee. Whereas Max Wei began his service on the committee in November 2011, and whereas Max served as chair of the committee for 3 years from January 2014 to January 2018, and whereas with expertise as a research scientist in the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, Max provided the committee with technical insights and analysis of topics discussed by the committee. And whereas Max carefully analyzed local emissions of greenhouse gas trends and challenged city policymakers and staff to advance towards achievement of the city's targets. And whereas Max was a dedicated member of the Green Building Subcommittee, which developed green building measures to ensure sustainable building and development and incentivize all-electric new construction. And whereas, as a member of the CAP 2.0 subcommittee, Max provided insight into effective and meaningful actions Albany can take to reach carbon neutrality. And whereas, Max supported development and launch of East Bay Community Energy, EBCE, including recommendation to opt up all Albany accounts to carbon-free electricity. And whereas, during his term of service, Max was instrumental in the development and adoption of the 2019 Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. And whereas, Max is recognized by the committee for his commitment to making Albany a more environmentally responsible city. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Climate Action Committee does express its appreciation to Max Wei for his service to the city of Albany and wishes him the best in his future endeavors. At this time, we will open it up again to public comment.
Okay, Jeremiah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I do remember Max. I could see his face right now. he wore glasses. I know that. And I wish he was here to hear. Just, I want to give him some props because that proclamation was exact on point. He was very technical about things, and I learned a lot from Max. I mean, I watched so many meetings and I just really listened. I always listened to his presentations and all of his facts, and it was great. Yeah, you're absolutely right. He had a lot of good information, and he would study air quality and all the research he did. I remember that. So that was a very good proclamation, and congratulations to Max. And I hope he, doesn't change who he is, and he keeps doing what he's doing. Yeah, what a great guy. I'm gonna miss his face and his information.
Thank you.
Great. And we'll open it back up to the committee for comments. Committee Member Peterson.
So, Max, he was a real giant. Max was a consummate scientist and just was essential to us really moving along. But the other thing I want to say is Max actually had a huge passion for addressing climate change. And I know he worked very hard bringing things. I think he was pushing the utility tax measure quite a bit, years ago. And, that was held up. So I think it's a testament to him that Measure DD did come along and pass. He actually helped move that measure along with the campaign. So having someone of his scientific caliber on the committee was really just absolutely amazing. So hopefully he'll continue to track us and give us assistance as a volunteer or something. Thanks.
Committee Member Woolley.
Well, I've never met Max, but as someone who is also a consummate scientist and also loses sleep over the climate crisis every night, I hope to be able to fill his shoes, and I do express appreciation for everything that he did, just having the information described in the proclamation.
Thank you. Any other comments? Committee Member Chen.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of reinforce everything that everyone has said here. I personally found one of the talks that Max gave at a climate action meeting pretty recently, I think, super inspiring, where he presented some research from a graduate student on electrification of appliances. And to be quite honest, that's one of the presentations that, really underscored to me how important the work the Climate Action Committee was doing and inspired me to apply. So thank you, Max.
Great. At this time, if someone would like to make a motion.
More than happy to. I'll make the motion that we accept the proclamation for Max Wei.
I'll second the motion.
Great. Committee Member Breeding.
Aye.
Committee Member Chen.
Aye.
Committee Member Merchant.
Aye.
Committee Member Peterson.
Aye.
Committee Member Woolley.
Aye.
Chair Choi.
Aye.
Motion carries. Great. Awesome. Well, during our orientation session for new members, I warned everyone that they shouldn't be too nervous about making motions or doing roll call votes because we'd had plenty of opportunity to practice. You all did great. We are officially done making motions, or at least anticipated at this time. And with that, we'll move on to agenda item 6-6, electrification website demonstration.
That is me, and I'll go ahead and share my screen here. All right. All right, so the electrification website is something that staff has been working on for about 6 months now. And we're getting very close to launching it to the public. And so we just kind of wanted to show you all what we've been working on, give you a sense of what it is, and kind of give you a chance to give us any sort of last comments or ideas before we actually finish up the final touches to it. And this website it's meant to help homeowners who are trying to electrify their homes either in their entirety or, just with certain appliances. Again, trying to get all of the homes in Albany on our green electricity. And this is one of the goals that's laid out in our CAP as well. And I also just want to note that Lizzie and I did recently find out that there's another website by a different group of organizations in the Bay Area that's also an electrification website. It's pretty similar, although they cover some slightly different areas, and ours is Albany specific, which I'll show you a bit more of in a few minutes. So luckily there's some areas where there's not overlap. So I think this will still be a cool and useful resource, especially for our Albany public. But with that, I'll go ahead and show you around the website a little bit. So this is our home page. And it has a few sections here, a nice little graphic to talk about what electrification looks like. And this is sort of the heart of the website. There's a variety of pages that describe different electric appliances. So one could click on any of those, and I'll show you those in a minute. But there's also just sort of two intro pages here. There's the Why Electrify page. And this is just kind of an introduction to what this electrification movement is all about, why it's better for the climate, other benefits it has as well. Just sort of to orient people about why they should electrify. And then we also have this page called Where to Get Started. And this is just to help kind of orient people as to where they should start with their project, or what types of appliances might be good for them to start on, what kinds of issues they need to think about before they begin their project. So there's some different questions here, and then examples or recommendations based on what their goals are. There's also a section about electrical panels. This is one of the trickier things about electrification. So we try to put a lot of information for people about electrical panels, how they work, whether or not they need an upgrade. And we also have an electric panel quiz that goes along with the website, which was developed by our tech intern, Will, who did a great job on it. And it allows people to just really quickly figure out whether they're likely to need an electric panel upgrade based on what they're doing. It's a super simple, just kind of check a few boxes and it gives you an answer. And then, like I said, there's this whole variety of pages here just describing the different appliances you would need to switch out to fully electrify your home. And each page has a pretty similar format with a little bit of basic information about the appliance to kind of let people know what it is we're even talking about. And then information on rebates, most of which come from BayRen, which is an organization that's really focused on electrification and rebates for our area, as well as some information about costs and savings. And a lot of this is really specific, and especially specific for Albany in some cases, which is really useful. Gives them a sense of how much this is going to cost and how much it costs in contrast with gas appliances or other kinds of electric appliances, how much they might save on their energy bill, for example. And then resources to start getting going on their projects. So contractor assistance over here, again, BayRen has a great resource for contractors in the area. And then also we have Albany specific permitting information here. So this is all of the links for permits and the application process and who to talk to at City Hall if you're confused about your permit application, and how that entire process works. So that's kind of a basics of each of these pages. Anything I'm forgetting here, Lizzie, that I should highlight again?
No, I think I'll just reemphasize that we started working on this project over the summer with an intern from UC Berkeley who wanted experience in some sustainability work. And we were not aware, but we now are, that a larger group of government organizations pulled together resources to create kind of a statewide approach to this kind of website. We didn't want to scrap our efforts though, so now we're really trying to focus on how can we make this more Albany specific so that we can use it as a complement to the already existing website, providing Albany specific permitting information. But yeah, just to reemphasize that we think it's awesome that other organizations did it too. We were not aware that that was happening.
Yes, yeah. And yeah, I think we've got some kind of different resources here, which are interesting too. And it's also something that we can continue to edit as time goes on. So, you know, if you have any kind of smaller scale suggestions, we could definitely include that before we put it live. And there are also some larger scale edits we're thinking of making in the future that we might just kind of add as an update later on after it's already launched. But with that, I'll turn it over for questions. Oh, looks like I see a member Merchant.
Yeah, hi, thank you so much. So one question I had was for the BayRen, are you only eligible for BayRen if you work with one of their participating contractors for the installation? I asked this just from like my personal knowledge of we're switching over to an induction range and we had to upgrade our electrical unit. And also I looked through trying to do it through BayRen and I couldn't figure out, and maybe this is just me, but I couldn't figure out how to do that buying our range from Galvin and using a local electrician. It didn't seem like we were eligible for any sort of rebates through them unless we elected to use one of their participating contractors.
That's a great question, Michelle, unless you do. I'm actually not totally sure of the answer, but we can definitely look into that.
Yeah, that is information on the limitations of that as like, because I feel like we made the decision to go induction. I'm just speaking from personal experience, and the electrical upgrade was actually a lot more expensive than I would have like expected to upgrade to be able to accommodate it. So even having some information on the range of costs of what certain upgrades might cost if you have to upgrade your electrical unit, like it's important to know if you can have an upgrade, but even like an idea of how much you should expect to spend so people can be reasonable about what their budgets are for this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've included quite a bit on the electrical service and panel upgrades for that reason. And yeah, I'm not sure about the BayRen contractor rebate situation, but that's something we'll definitely look into because if it's complicated, we want to have advice for that on here. So thanks for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you.
I think, yes, Member Peterson, yes.
Yeah, so this is great, and I think we want to get it out there so people have access to it. Again, a couple concerns I have. I know we had the Carbon-Free Albany had similar things where there were actions you could take, and they had a lot of information on heat pumps and other things. So I think tailoring this specific to Albany is really critical to get the most bang for the buck. So one thought I had, would it be possible to add a comments section where people who have already done, what would be helpful, I think, for Albany people is to talk to other Albany people that have already gone through this. I've helped I've gone through a lot of electrification in my home and did a heat pump water heater, and actually was able to help one of the committee members when his gas water heater went out, how to sort of navigate through this. So the more immediate. And I think Laura's comment about, going to Gavin Appliance and then finding out, our major appliance vendor in Albany isn't certified by Bayron. I would like to see the city put in some effort to reaching out to those merchants and those contractors. I used an electrical contractor who was fantastic, but he wasn't certified by the Bayron. So I think putting effort into making it local, including reaching out to the contractors and vendors in Albany so that we can bring them into this picture too, would be very worthwhile.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that comment. We'll definitely look into that as well. Any other questions before we go to public comment?
Yeah, I kind of just wanted to underscore that this is like a really great first pass at the website. One thing that I think, I mean, I would like to spend a little more time and click around, but I do think there are a lot of residents of Albany who, are more disadvantaged. So, really focusing on our CARE FIRA residents that are on CARE FIRA plans and might be eligible for other incentives, or focusing on just different members of the community that might not be as resourced, I think would be just a really great way of making, a lot of our programs more specific to Albany.
Sorry, I'm just writing that down. Thank you. Yes, Member Peterson. And I just want to remember, I think right now we're supposed to do questions only, and then public, and then comments.
So my question is, half of Albany are renters. Does this accommodate them or make inroads to reaching out to multiple unit landlords to do things too?
I would say not yet. This is more focused on owners. It could also be used by someone who owns a property and rents it out. I think we're looking in general into more ways across everything we do to try to bring in these types of electrification projects for multifamily and for rented buildings. And so that's something that I think we'll try to build into the website as we try to work on that overall, but it's not a huge part of the website at the moment. Yes, Member Merchant.
Thank you. So that raised a related question for me, which is sort of, once this website is launched, how are we going to make people aware of it? And is there a plan for making this information available to people who might not have internet access or the savvy to navigate a website like this?
I can speak to that a little bit. Before addressing the non-tech savvy side, we'll definitely blast this out via our e-news, social media, website. We plan to cross-reference it with our Carbon Free Albany platform, and again on our website too. We do tend to create like pamphlets or flyers. We are not currently, but a lot of times if we create like educational tools, we'll try to pull the info into pamphlets or flyers that then we put in one of those pamphlet trees in the City Hall lobby. Again, that is not really an option right now, but that's something we definitely try to do. I actually think there's currently a bunch of electrification pamphlets from the Ecology Center sitting in the City Hall lobby. So I imagine we do something similar to this for that. Right now, though, I don't totally know how we would pass this information along to folks who don't have internet access. But if committee members have thoughts on how we could do that, please let us know. Email me at any time. Would love to hear your thoughts. Any other questions?
I'm not seeing. Oh, Member Peterson again. Yes.
Yeah, just a quick one. So this looks like it's set up as a trial. This will be accessed if you go to the Albany, Maine website, you can get into this right from there. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have a link to it. Yeah.
Great. I do see that we have 2 members of the public with their hands raised.
Thanks. It's Jeremiah. Yeah, we could notify the public by putting one at the kiosk on Solano and Curtis. Also, maybe some businesses on Solano, we can ask them if we could put it on their window. Also, you could probably put it on some of the Big Belly trash cans. You can make a flyer. I did that for the last night's city council meeting. I put a lot of flyers around Cornell and Solano. You know, and also maybe the block captain, if anybody knows about CERT, maybe you could let the block captain know some information, and then the block captain could hit everybody on walkie-talkie channel 20 on, I think it's Friday nights radio check. So you can advertise a few ways like that. But I wanted to say, yeah, I'm so looking forward for that panel survey, that upgraded panel quiz. That was really fun. You guys did the presentation with the UC Berkeley student. That was really informative. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And I think that's it. Yeah, just you can let the community know. I mean, I put flyers up on the Big Bellies, light poles, just kind of, you know, I talked to businesses on Solano. But yeah, a lot of people go to the post office. You know, there's a few intersections in Albany where there's high traffic. So the best thing I do to notify the public, I'm sorry, I was too busy going to the food pantry, Berkeley Food Network today to pass out food for the homeless. My whole day was gathering food and passing it out. I was unavailable to put tonight's meeting. I apologize. That's my bad. But yeah, I just try to do what I can as a citizen to let the public know when these meetings are and things that are happening. So, and also Gordo's, I usually put up a flyer on the bulletin board at Gordo's. There's a lot of traffic at Gordo's restaurant. So I walk in there and I ask the workers, is it okay to post on their bulletin? And they say, yeah, go ahead, Jeremiah. It's all good. So there's a few ways to let the public be notified informally. That's not on a computer. So that's what I do. And there's the kiosk on Curtis and Solano, and also every single Big Belly trash can. Sometimes there's a blank side and I just kind of put it on the blank one. I never cover up the recycling. I never cover up any information on the Big Bellies. I just put it where there's a blank space.
Thank you, Jeremiah.
Okay. Next, Eric, please go ahead.
All right, it's Eric Larson. So I'm speaking as a member of the public this time. Michelle, nice work on getting that content done. It was really good to see that coming to fruition. I really encourage and am happy to see the building of content so that we can get that out to people and actually getting to the implementation phase of our climate action plan. So that's really great to see that. I think it's a good experiment. I wouldn't worry too much about duplication of other websites, but I would echo what somebody else said about making sure that we maintain the linkages between the Carbon Free Albany and the city websites so that people can find the information easily. You don't want to strand the information, obviously. So, just let's make sure we link that and make it a network of information. I know from personal experience about the barriers of trying to electrify. I'm the committee member that Nick was referring to when my water heater broke, and I had to scramble and try to get a heat pump water heater installed. And I just about gave up about 3 times with all the different barriers that confronted me. BayREN was great. My experience with BayREN was that they incentivized the contractor. There's very little homeowner rebates available, at least for the heat pump water heater. The hurdles are quite high for the contractors apparently to get the homeowner rebate level of kind of thing. But at least they're incentivizing the contractors, which was great. And so that's how I found my contractor, got it installed, great plumber, did a good job, recommended a really good water heater. So I was really happy with the outcome. And I really liked what I think it was Nick said about, maybe getting some Albany stories out there onto the website, getting people, I'd be happy to write my story. I'm sure others would as well, just to help people feel like, when they confront these barriers of, electric panel upgrade, that's another $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 I didn't have to expect to spend. It's going to be okay. You're going to get through it. If you think it through, here's the resources. I think that's a great step in the right direction. So thanks for putting that together.
Thank you. During public comment, I did receive note that if anyone has thoughts, committee members, members of the public, anyone has thoughts on how communication can be shared, not just online during these COVID times, the CMAC, Community Media Access Committee, has a meeting next week. Council has tasked the CMAC with figuring out alternative communication means. The meeting will be Monday at 6 p.m. and details should be up on the city calendar, which is accessed through the city website, by tomorrow. Great. Any other comments or questions or discussion? Committee Member Peterson?
So I'd like to impress on staff that, this is a great effort. We need to get out there, make it useful. But I also think we need to be a bit mindful about how we can leverage other resources because we have such limited staff time. I think this is great. We should get it out there. But it's a little disconcerting to hear that there's something very similar that was there. And I know that's kind of hard to avoid. We started kind of early on this, but sometimes I think we get a bit enamored with making our own kind of stuff. That is totally appropriate if it is completely relevant to Albany. But I know there's a lot of information that, the BayREN stuff, the others, it's all just links to sites. And I'd encourage us to be really mindful of how we dole out staff time and make sure it's something that is abundantly beneficial to what we're trying to do. The communication aspect really troubles me too. I actually joined the Climate Action Committee with the interest of creating a portal because, you go to the city website and it was very difficult to sort of, what can I do to go green kind of portal. And I was really enthused when we started the Albany Albany carbon-free, what is it called again?
Carbonfreealbany.org.
Carbon-free Albany, right. That's been out there for a few years now, and we still have under 200 people signed up on it. So I think our problem is we make these tools, but then making people aware of them and getting them to use it. I'd like to see some city resources put towards doing that. Maybe partnering with schools, trying to get things out through PTA and student activities, student assignments. That's what I think it was Fremont or San Jose actually did, is when they launched their carbon-free Fremont or San Jose, they actually had a nonprofit group that came in and worked with the schools to roll the whole thing out. So immediately through all the students, there was sort of this assignment to do that. And I think it's we tend to think we can put something up on the website and immediately everybody in Albany is looking at it. And I get worried that's not entirely the case. it hasn't panned out so far in that manner. Even the e-blast goes out to pretty limit. When you think of how many people are in Albany, that's a pretty limited number. That doesn't even canvass the whole city. And it was interesting what I'm also mindful of what Member Chen said, is that we probably have a lot of people in elderly and other people in the area. I have an elderly neighbor up the street. She has no idea this stuff is going on via website information. So anyway, that's my comments.
Thank you for the feedback.
Yeah, I think the advertising is definitely a big important piece of this and getting it out to a big population. I also just wanted to say that it sounds like there's a few people here that have done some electrification and have stories maybe of how that went down and the hurdles. And I just want to go ahead and invite you all to email me or set up a meeting with me at some point to tell me all the details of that, because I really want to hear about every hurdle so that we can address as much as possible on this website, and especially, as Member Peterson was saying, the things that are really Albany specific, Bay Ren specific, and that goes out to the public as well. Feel free to email us and get in touch, because we really do want to hear the stories of what has been difficult or what's been easy, so we can get out as much information that's really useful as possible.
Great. If there are no other comments, and before we move on to the next agenda item, I will note Vice Chair Chen, you are now the chair of the meeting for the remainder of the meeting, because Sarah Choi, it is finals week at Albany High, and so she emailed me ahead of time to let me know that she had a previous commitment that she had to stick to. I know that we haven't had an opportunity to talk about how chairing a meeting works, so I will definitely help along with this process. But next we will move to agenda item 6-7, subcommittee updates. This agenda item, Committee Member Peterson requested we add it to the agenda. Committee Member Peterson is currently a member of the EV Action Plan Subcommittee. The EV Action Plan Subcommittee has been working on coming up with strategies for an electric vehicle action plan that would help the city transition fossil fuel burning vehicles to electric vehicles. This is for private community members, not for city vehicles. I'll note that Committee Member Peterson has proposed different names for the plan, but the official name of the subcommittee is the EV Action Plan Subcommittee. Committee Member Peterson, I don't know if you want to start off the update with an update from that subcommittee.
Well, I won't focus a lot on it. Except to say that in looking at it, and Michelle actually lent a lot of support to this, and thank you for doing that. When we first launched into it, we were looking pretty strongly at just, a one-for-one switch out of current privately owned automobiles to electric vehicles, and did a lot of analysis mainly of the 2018 DMV registration information for the Albany zip code area, which actually tells you what types of cars and what their fuel types are and everything. 15,000 plus cars in Albany, of which only about 5% are completely not fossil fuel. There's hybrids in there too. So that kind of began to exceed our expertise looking at other cities' EV action plans. There was a lot of traffic analysis, a lot of vehicle ownership analysis, a lot of sales of vehicle analysis. All of this sort of exceeded our ability to gain access to that information or process that information. But rather than go into saying, oh, Albany should hire a consultant, come up with a big fancy traffic study report, we know that a large share, pushing a half of the emissions attributed to Albany are from transportation. and those come from gasoline and diesel powered vehicles. So thinking about it more broadly, the idea was to think more in terms of zero emission transportation plan, action plan. And in that mind, that opens up the door more to promoting active transportation, public transportation, electrifying public transportation, looking at vehicle hailing, looking at the people in Albany that maybe work for Lyft or Uber that could be encouraged or incentivized to get electric vehicles, making more, the hurdles that, what are the challenges and hurdles? I live on kind of the east side of Albany, where there are sort of larger homes and people tend to be, I think, a bit more affluent. And there are a lot of Teslas and a lot of electric vehicles in my neighborhood. But you go down to Keynes, where there are a lot of apartment buildings, and there could be electric vehicles, but none of those apartment buildings have anywhere to charge them. They would be stuck running around trying to go to shopping centers and charge points that aren't convenient. So there's the focus is going to be more on looking at where the areas of people are that need assistance. Also, Albany does have a rather large segment of its population that commutes by public transit, and that was encouraging to see. So encouraging that through, again, thinking about incentives, transit cards that are subsidized, that kind of thing, to encourage people to essentially stop making passenger vehicle trips, individual passenger vehicle trips, and rethink how they use transportation. We're not going to solve any of the transportation issues in Albany unless we get away from being so hooked to our cars. So just thinking everybody in Albany is going to get an electric car isn't the correct way to think about it. So I do have an outline draft of sort of some of what we put together. Lizzie, I could get that to you, and it could be shared with everyone, maybe for input at the next meeting. But two of the individuals who are helping out with that have left that, so I'd be more than happy to have, if people have a strong interest in this. I think we should keep that subcommittee going. I know we're not supposed to have long-standing subcommittees, but this is a huge task, and pulling it all together, I think we're gonna have to try to reach out to other resources or volunteers in the city that can help out with it. So that's kind of a wrap on that plan. I know also one of our subcommittees was the building electrification subcommittee, and we cleared a hurdle there, which was recommending to City Council the adoption of Green Code Tier 1 and 2 selected requirements, and that was presented early on in our meeting. And so that, I think, passed on consent calendar at last City Council meeting. So, but there's still a lot more to do. That did not solve electrification of buildings. So I'm not sure if we want to continue that committee and have people focus in on next hurdles, maybe point of sale requirements or whatever.
Nick?
One thing,
yeah. Committee Member Peterson, I think before we start getting into a discussion of reorganizing subcommittees, maybe we should agendize that for the February meeting to take a look at what subcommittee.
Yeah, well, I'll bring that up when we talk about future agenda items.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't have anything else to report on any of the other subcommittees.
Okay. I will note we're just 2 minutes shy of 9:30 p.m. So if we'd like to extend the meeting, we will have to do a motion to extend. Typically, the way these work is one member will, for example, say motion to extend the meeting to 9:45 p.m. Someone will have to second that motion, or they can propose a different time if they wish, and then we'll go through the process of a roll call vote.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to extend to 9:45.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Roll call vote. Committee Member Breeding looks like may no longer be in the room. Committee Member Chen?
Aye.
Committee Member Merchant?
Aye.
Committee Member Peterson?
Aye.
Committee Member Woolley.
Aye.
Great. Motion carries. We've extended the meeting to 9:45 p.m.
If there's no other discussion on subcommittees, we do have a member of the public who's asked to speak.
I think now would be a good time.
Okay. Please go ahead, Jeremiah.
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, it looks like there might have only been one person on the subcommittee, Mr. Peterson. I was gonna ask Member Woolley and also Member Chin. I don't know. Can you do me a favor? Would both of you be interested to be on that subcommittee? From your background, it looks like maybe that could be something you'd be interested in. And you could put some time in for that. I think that'd be great. Both of you gentlemen look like you might be into that kind of thing. It might be a really fun subcommittee. It might really help out. So I would just nominate both of you to be on that subcommittee. That's my public comment.
Thank you.
Great. We'll open it back up to the committee. I see Committee Member Woolley. Oh, you may be on mute.
There we go. I just had two questions about that, actually. The first is, what is the procedure for establishing a subcommittee? And then the other one is, how do you join a subcommittee? Because the electric vehicle adaptation plan committee, subcommittee, sounds good to me. I think I could offer some expertise there.
Great question. I think because we're working with a newer committee at the start of a year, we should agendize for February subcommittee reorganization. But typically what would happen, I think, and Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, is if we have a discussion item related to a particular topic and the discussion started getting into, into the weeds, a committee member could make a motion or propose and then make a motion to establish a subcommittee. And then no more than 3 members, potentially less than 3, could join that subcommittee, and we would formally record who is in that subcommittee just to make sure that it's very visible who is in the subcommittee, make sure that communication outside of the meeting within that subcommittee is limited to those 3 members.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. It can be kind of an informal discussion. Some things you may know you want to have a subcommittee, others come up during the course of the year as issues emerge or ideas emerge.
Committee Member Peterson?
So I was kind of thinking with subcommittee updates, you're saying all we can do, because that's what it says on the agenda, is update. We can't do things like, I was just trying to be efficient. We have new members, they could volunteer. One's already said interested. Why can't we just move along and have people join subcommittees, not suggest new subcommittees? It just seems like we only meet 10, 11 times a year. If we put it off for another meeting, that's a whole 1/5 of the time it gets delayed. So I'm a little frustrated in that process, but maybe that's just the way it has to happen.
I think if you wanted to reorganize the electric vehicle action subcommittee, probably not the urban forestry subcommittee, because both current members are not present right now. I think that would be fine because it's on the agenda as something to discuss. I just wanted to refrain from proposing new subcommittees during an agenda item when we're not really explicitly discussing forming subcommittees. That was where I was going. But if you want to bring in members of the electric vehicle action subcommittee now, I think that would be fine.
Yeah, okay. So in just talking about, and even the electrification subcommittee is, I guess my question there was, with the leaving of the members of that committee and having passed that on to city council action, it's probably best for us to say that committee is closed. And if we want to do something around electrification, we would make another, at a later meeting, another subcommittee that had something to do with electrification. Is that right? We can't just say, oh, there's an electrification subcommittee, who wants to be on it? Please get on it and come up with another project. Is that
You are
done?
correct. Typically, subcommittees are formed to address specific
Yeah,
tasks.
So just to let other people know, subcommittees are allowed because they're ad hoc, meaning that they don't last indefinitely. If it starts to look like they're lasting indefinitely, then that starts to trend into a violation of the Brown Act. So anyway, yeah, so it looks like if folks are interested in the Zero Emissions Transportation Committee, I'm really happy that both members, Woolley and Chen, would like to participate in that. I'm ecstatic about that. I can set up some meetings and we can report back next time what we come up with. Do we need to officially make a motion to add them to the subcommittee?
Jeff, that's a question for you, but quick clarification for me. I may have missed this. Committee member Chen, I'm not sure if you personally expressed your interest in being on this subcommittee, so I just want to double check if I missed that.
Yeah, I'm not actually quite sure if I'm ready to take that on.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, okay. I think I heard Jeremiah's nomination of you, and I sorry, but thank you, Jeremiah. I think it was a great choice. Anyway, if there's anyone else, I don't know if member Merchant or would be interested. Everybody sort of has their own field they don't like to focus on, so you can understand if people aren't ready, that's fine. Generally, just for your information, the subcommittees try to meet at least once between regular sessions, maybe twice just before, to pull notes together. But there, again, it's something we work out together. There's nothing really mandatory. It's just trying to come up with good information to present back to the committee.
I understand the urgency to get working on something like this. But keep in mind as you're kind of pondering what you individually want to work on and what subcommittees you might want to join, as we start to discuss a work plan next month, sometimes that prioritization of the work plan will lay out, okay, here are our 3 highest priorities. Those are the 3 things we should have. And then you can pick, each of you individually can say that one's the most interesting thing for me, and maybe that other thing is less interesting, or what have you. So if you want to do something now, I think that's fine. But you can, it's not the end of the conversation about what subcommittees you might be interested in. And for that matter, you can come and go. They're intended to be flexible. And so, yeah, I think you can decide now if you want, or you can wait for a discussion next month. And that work plan discussion is probably going to take you a couple of meetings, I would guess. And then you can decide whether you want to stay with it or do something differently. I'm sure that would be fine too. You're not locked in.
Great. I do have noted for now, though, for the record, that committee member Woolley will be joining committee member Peterson in the EV Action Plan subcommittee. Great. And I'll share your email addresses with each other tomorrow so that you can connect. Great. Any other comments or discussion to be had on agenda item 6-7 subcommittee updates? And if not, we will move on to future agenda items. Future agenda item is an opportunity for committee members and members of the public to raise suggestions for future discussions, announcements, or presentations. I will note, and I've mentioned this in a few orientation sessions, listing a future agenda item does not guarantee that it'll go on the agenda based on time, feasibility, and how many items there are to cover at the next meeting, but it is noted in the minutes that this is requested as an agenda item, and staff and the chair and vice chair will work together to address all future agenda items raised. So we do have a member of the public with their hand raised, so maybe we should start with that.
Thanks. I just checked the governor's website. I think it's 2035. The state of California is moving to no sale of gas-powered vehicles and diesel. So I mentioned earlier, maybe a future agenda item Albany could maybe push toward a 2030 just within our city, so we can be leaders. We could be one of those cities that are kind of leading on green environment changes. So maybe we could push for a future agenda item. I don't know if it's the right time, but maybe while there aren't too many agenda items yet for the year, it could be a good one to say, hey, let's write up a proposal or recommend city council to pass a resolution, something about Albany car dealerships not being able to sell cars, 2030. I know the state's going to have their thing for 2035, and the car sales people are going to say, hey, well, we want 5 more years. But maybe we could be leaders and just say, hey, Albany is going green first. We might even make Channel 7 News or something, for doing a good thing for the environment. So my future agenda item is maybe the sale of vehicles in Albany, used cars and new cars. No more diesel. We just don't want to encourage the selling, making money off of selling diesel vehicles, or we don't want to encourage corporations making money off of gasoline anymore, because that's what it's all about. The dealerships are trying to make money, for a commission to sell a vehicle for a dealership. So my future agenda item for the public would be focus on Subaru and used car dealerships in Albany for not selling any more gas-powered vehicles, maybe 2030 or whatever year you could agree on. Thank you.
Great. I believe that's all the public comment we have, so we can open it up to committee members. Committee member Woolley. Oh, you're muted.
Oops, my bad. I had 2 agenda items to discuss next time, but I will see if I can remember the second one. The first one was definitely, I think we should discuss how the funds collected from Measure DD are going to be spent. Since that is something that we have, advisory purview over, I think that would be a good idea to get on that right away, and maybe make a plan for perhaps, a portion of those funds will be spent in the budgetary period that we are about to discuss in the coming months. As for the second one, though, I can't remember. I apologize.
No problem. Thank you. Committee member Peterson.
Yeah, okay, so I have a few things here. I'll second what was Committee member Woolley said about the Measure DD funds. So this is interesting, and I'd like staff to kind of advise on this. I know the measure passed, it's general funds. There was just a recommendation that 1/3 of the proceeds go to assisting implement the cap. But voters voted for that, and they're very interested. We'll never get something like this through again if we don't be transparent and actually monitor this. So I would like to go to the city council, and I'm not making a motion here or anything, but I think we should put this item on so that we advise the city council to track the funds that come in, which will be very easy to do because they come from just, this primary, the utility tax source, that they track that, determine what 1/3 of it is. And I'd even go a step further that we need to immediately start coming up with recommendations on how that funding can be used for either incentives or assistance to the citizens of Albany for doing the key point items, electrification, electric vehicle, whatever. I mean, especially focused on our more challenged residents. So if we don't show immediate results from that, I'm concerned that when we will be going for more, or we will want to go for more, especially higher taxes on gas in maybe a couple of years, and we will have a heck of a time getting voters to approve it if they feel they don't know, if they feel we have not used those funds appropriately. But if we can report back, and it'll take a little bit of staff effort and tracking, if we can report back, yes, we gave out 200 incentive checks for this or that. I'm not going to get real specific on it, but I think we need to request, however we do it. I don't think the committee itself has to do it, but we need to request that be done. So I've got a couple other things, but I would be interested to hear what other committee members said. And do we need to extend the time? I think we're right at time. Sorry.
Yes, technically we should extend the time.
Well, I'm willing to extend another 15 minutes, although I want to tie everyone up. What's the most, I mean, I can just say my items, we can just put them down as future agenda items, and then, be up to the vice chair and the chair to work it out when you guys meet. So I'll do whatever people are interested in, but I'll make a motion to extend at least another 15 minutes.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. We're missing committee member Breeding, Vice Chair Chen.
Aye.
Committee member Merchant.
Aye.
Committee member Woolley.
Aye.
Committee member Peterson.
Aye. At least we have a quorum.
Carries.
So if no one has any comment on that, so we have the Measure DD accounting. I'd like to propose that we talk about a new ad hoc subcommittee for electrification of rental housing, or electrification related to renters and multiple family housing, because I think that's a key hurdle. The other thing is, so that would be two. Third is next Friday, we will have a presentation by someone from the Climate Center on the Climate Safe California campaign. I'm beginning to see this as endorsing this would be a bit of a trick, but I'd like to at least have it on the agenda. We will just have the presentation. We could talk about whether we want to recommend to the city council that the city of Albany endorse that. It actually is an accelerates significantly beyond what the current cap is, so it might be a moot point on that, but I'd like to at least have it on the agenda. Then the fourth was electrification of critical facilities in Albany for emergency response, that there be more collaboration and communication with the Albany Unified School District on this. So I think school district is actually really pursuing aggressively either solar or other forms of becoming net zero. And I have yet to hear what the city's doing around that with their facilities, but there could be a real opportunity if we were collaborating a bit more on that. And that was it for my suggestions for agenda items.
Committee member Woolley, I see your hand up.
Yes. As soon as you said something about renting, committee member Peterson, that's when I remember the second thing that I wanted to say. So I second the request to put on the agenda an item regarding outreach towards rental units and the owners of those to see how they might be persuaded to adopt electrification strategies. I don't know how we're going to do that, or maybe there's a completely separate strategy that we will use to target rental units. But for example, I live in the Gateview apartments, and roughly, I don't know exactly how many it is, but I think it was as many as a fifth of registered voters. So let's say roughly a fifth of the citizens of Albany live on my block. And I know none of them who are interested in the actions of the city, and none of them like left their houses anyway, to my knowledge, prior to the COVID crisis. And so I think having like a large scale success story, saying, hey, we got these huge buildings, you know, to adopt an electrification strategy, might be really good for further community engagement. And we could use, you know, that as a springboard to campaign for further measures that would adopt, you know, further, basically leverage further funding for further action like this. So yeah, I second the request to put a rental item on next month's agenda.
Great. Committee, Vice Chair Chen.
Yeah, I guess I just have two quick ones. One of them is I'd like to get a better understanding of our work plan, so I'd like to put that on the agenda. I'm not sure if that was already on there. And then I guess the other one is we've sort of seen some comment from members of the public around motorized garden equipment. I don't know if staff already has looked into the effects of motorized gardening equipment on the climate action plan. And I'm not sure if that's appropriate for a February agenda item, but I would like that to be on the agenda at some point in the next couple of months.
I can just quickly chime in and say, yes, this committee has discussed motorized garden equipment. We discussed it in 2020, and then I think at two other intervals in the history of the committee, but I think we can provide an announcement update about what we've done since to address those concerns. Spoiler alert, we have not pursued a ban on the equipment for reasons we can dive into when we do this announcement, but we Michelle created a pamphlet that is available on our website. If you go to the sustainability drop down and then environmental policy and best practices, and we have some social media and other, again, online resources we can share with folks to spread the words about greener alternatives. But yes, we can provide an announcement, but just in the interim, because I know it's come up a couple times in the last couple of weeks, that's just a quick description of where we're at. Committee Member Peterson?
Yeah, I'm glad Member Chen brought up the work plan development. I know you guys were going to put that on there, but we definitely need to look at that. And I believe the work plan is available on the website, right, under the Climate Action Committee. I think there's, yeah, so I encourage everyone to look at that and be prepared next time for modifying it to our more current goals. It was established 2 years ago, so.
I think it's technically expired, but yeah, feel free to take a look at that to get a gauge of what the committee has worked on or previously been tasked with, as I'm sure some of the broader topics will carry over onto this year's or this cycle's work plan. It is available if you go to the city website under the Climate Action Committee page. You'll see on the right-hand side a link to the work plan. Committee Member Woolley?
Yeah, also on the agenda for next month, I don't know if this will already be on there. I'm guessing subcommittee updates is going to happen somewhat regularly, but I would also like to propose a new subcommittee and gauge the interest among the other committee members in joining, but that is something I'd like to table for next time.
Great. I think we'll, yes, do perhaps some subcommittee reorganization, and perhaps Committee Member Woolley, if you want to send me and Chair Choi a description of what you might propose, just to make sure we have a good idea for the agenda of how to properly agendize that. Any other comments? Great. not, I'll pass the mic to Vice Chair Chen at this time. Well, sorry, I'll announce our next meeting is Wednesday, February 17th, virtual at 7:30 p.m. And now I will pass it to Vice Chair Chen, and you can officially call the meeting adjourned.
Well, I suppose the meeting is adjourned then.
Great, thank you.
Great job. Thanks, everyone. Good to meet you all. We'll see you again.
Take care. Thank you all.
Great first meeting. Have a nice evening.